Ladies and gentlemen, history is full of what-ifs, but few are as haunting or as compelling as this one. What if Ernesto Che Guevara had not been executed in 1967? What if, instead of dying in a Bolivian schoolhouse, he had slipped through the grasp of his captors, lived another decade, and continued his fight, not as a romanticized martyr, but as a living, breathing revolutionary force? Tonight, we explore that alternate timeline, a world where Che Guevara kept moving, kept fighting, and reshaped global struggle, not through death, but through endurance. It begins in late 1967. The Bolivian campaign has failed. Che is wounded, cornered, and the Bolivian army surrounds La Higuera. But instead of execution, a miracle unfolds. A loyal unit of Cuban-trained guerrillas reaches him in time. A gunfight erupts. 2 soldiers die. But Che, bleeding and barely conscious, is smuggled into the dense Andean foothills, then quietly airlifted by night to Havana. News of his death is still reported worldwide, perhaps even encouraged by Castro to protect him. But in revolutionary circles, rumors fly. Che lives. In hiding, Che takes time to recover, physically, mentally, ideologically. He's no longer the same man who led reckless uprisings in Congo and Bolivia. He's older, sharper. He studies, writes, learns from failure. By 1970, Che begins orchestrating secret operations across the global south. But now, he fights smarter. Using Havana as a silent nerve center, Che establishes a network of safe houses, encrypted communications, and covert travel routes through Algeria, Mozambique, Panama, and Chile. His missions are no longer about igniting sparks, they are about building fires that last. He quietly assists the Sandinistas in Nicaragua, advising on political strategy as well as guerrilla warfare. In Angola, he collaborates with MPLA leaders, helping unify factions under an anti-colonial banner. He avoids taking the spotlight, moving behind the scenes, mentoring rather than leading. Che's covert operations are legendary. In 1973, disguised as a Brazilian engineer, he enters Argentina. His mission? To assist leftist student unions in Buenos Aires and revive revolutionary morale after brutal crackdowns. The CIA catches whispers of El Fantasma, the ghost, a figure matching Che's description, but no proof ever surfaces. In 1975, he travels to Ethiopia under an alias. There, he warns rebel commanders, "Don't become what you fight." He urges decentralized leadership, land reform, and a rejection of Soviet-style authoritarianism. His messages are smuggled in pamphlets and cassette tapes, hidden in crates of bananas, or sewn into the lining of jackets. Wherever he goes, Che plants seeds. Of rebellion, yes, but also of conscience. As Che's influence spreads underground, it also takes unexpected root in cultural spaces. The 1970s is a decade of upheaval. Civil rights, anti-war protests, music, and art all pulsating with rebellion. Che's writings begin to reach Western artists, first in whispers, then in full. In 1972, an anonymous letter surfaces in Paris, a reflection on revolution, beauty, and alienation. Signed E.G. Sartre calls it brutal honesty masked in poetry. Many suspect the author is Che. In New York, artists like Gil Scott-Heron and Nina Simone reference his ideas, weaving anti-imperialist messages into their lyrics. In Italy, Pier Paolo Pasolini praises Che's critiques of both capitalism and Soviet communism. Jean-Luc Godard dedicates a film essay to him. Though never confirmed publicly, it is believed Che once met Chilean poet Pablo Neruda in secret in 1971. The two spoke through the night about struggle, love, and language. Neruda would later write, Some men are born in fire, but Che walks through it. Che's message to artists is clear. Art is not an escape. It is a weapon. Use it well. Had Che lived into the mid-1970s, he would have stood apart from both Cold War giants. He would reject the suffocating bureaucracy of the Soviet Union. Though once sympathetic, he now saw it as a betrayal of revolutionary ideals, a system more interested in power than people. He writes in a 1974 essay circulated privately in Havana, "The revolution dies when the bureaucrat wears the revolutionary's mask." At the same time, he would remain a staunch critic of U.S. interventionism, Vietnam, Chile, Guatemala, labeling it the global police of profit. Che advocates a third revolutionary path, calling on the non-aligned nations to resist manipulation by either bloc. He dreams of a united Latin America, not as satellites, but as sovereign peoples. He pushes for worker-controlled cooperatives, radical education reform, and land redistribution as alternatives to both capitalist exploitation and top-down communism. These ideas are discussed quietly in meetings in Algeria, Lisbon, and even Geneva. To many, Che becomes a moral compass for the fractured left. To others, he remains a ghost too dangerous to catch. By 1977, Che is nearly 50. His beard graying, his lungs weakened by illness and war. But his voice is steady, his fire unshaken. He gives rare private lectures, attended by revolutionaries, professors, and a few trusted Western journalists. In these gatherings, he warns against ego, authoritarianism, and empty slogans. "Revolution is not a flag you wear. It's a burden you carry," he tells them. There is talk of one last mission, perhaps in Central America, but his health fails him. Che dies in 1978 in a hidden valley near Quito, Ecuador. Heart failure, they say. His body is buried in secret, as he wished. But his death is no spectacle, no last words captured in blood, no myth frozen in time. Instead, Che dies having lived long enough to shape his legacy, not as a romantic, but as a builder of revolutions grounded in dignity, equity, and realism. When the news finally breaks, the world does not weep for a symbol, but for a man. And so we ask, what if Che Guevara had lived 10 more years? The world might not be radically different, but a generation of resistance would have had a living mentor. A flawed but evolving revolutionary voice who reminded us that ideology must be matched with empathy and passion with purpose. In that alternate timeline, Che Guevara lived not just in murals and slogans, but in dialogue, in art, in strategy. And perhaps, in that world, the revolution didn't just burn, it grew. Thanks for watching.